Hi, I'm Roger Fredericks, and I want to explain exactly the importance of flexibility. Flexibility and fitness have really taken a large role in the golf world in the last several years, and I want to really get specific on how important it really is. Number one, give me some statistics here. Pro golfers on average have around 50 to 100% more flexibility in their upper trunk than the average person on the street. Pro golfers on average have around 2/3 faster hip speed or pelvic rotation through the ball than the average person on the street. The question is, why do we all have it? And I think the answer is because we all started the game when we were kids. Think about it. We're doing this motion 200, 300, 400, 500 times a day, pretty much every day of our lives, never stopping to get a real job. We end up with superb flexibility over a lifetime. How about the hip speed? Well, hip speed comes from flexible hips and strong driving legs. You mean pro golfers have strong legs? Think about this. A round of golf is about a 5 to 7 mile walk, and we're walking 18, 27, 36 holes a day pretty much for a lifetime. We end up with superb, incredible tree trunks for legs, incredible upper body flexibility, and plus we're hitting millions of balls, so we make the game look easy, but we're able to make this motion very easily. Now, let's take a look at the average person out there who doesn't have the advantage of playing golf since childhood like we did. Does this lifestyle look familiar to you? The average person gets up and goes down and has their breakfast, sits down, reads the paper, has some coffee, what have you, gets back up, goes and cleans up, and they go back out into their car. They sit down in their car, drive the way to work. Now they get to their new hunting and gathering locale, get back up, oftentimes being transported up into an elevator, having the motion done for them. Now they go into their office, they sit down at their desk, and here comes the day, either on conference calls, in meetings, at the computer, doing business reports, what have you. They're sitting down. At around 4:30, 5 o'clock, they get back up, down the elevator, back in the car, back home, sitting down, and they finally come back home and they say, honey, I've had a hard day. Why don't you give me a cold one? Now sometimes they get a little bit frustrated, they get a little bit anxious, they want to go do something. And what do? We go out back in the car, out to dinner, in a restaurant, at a ball game, in a theater, what have you, sitting down. The bottom line is we spend too much of our lives sitting down too much, and here's the real danger of that. Number one, as we sit down, guess what? No leg strength anymore, no leg exercising. Number two, here's the real danger. The real danger now is when I'm sitting down here, not to get technical, but the most powerful muscles in our body, the hip flexor muscles down here, which connect to our lower body, our pelvis, and our spine, they're actually in a state of contraction. In other words, these muscles contract, these expand. The front muscles here are contracting, and they actually, believe it or not, when you're sitting down like this, you're actually strengthening these muscles. And when they get too strengthened without equal support from other muscles, they tend to tighten up. Okay. When they tighten up now, they start to pull the pelvis forward. When the pelvis gets forward, now we have some trouble because what's connected to the pelvis? The spine. Then pretty soon here comes back problems. On top of that, most of us live in a right-handed world, and one side of our body, usually the right side, gets too strong and dominant. So think about this. Not only are we sitting down in a forward flexion position all of our lifetime, but now we start using one side of the body too much. In the car, for example, what are we doing millions of times? We're working the foot to the accelerator, to the brake, back and forth millions of times, strengthening the anterior tibialis, the quadriceps, and the right hip actually, believe it or not, is engaged. Plus we usually have one shoulder and hand forward than the other on our computer mouse or what have you. Then we go out and play golf, we're using one side dominantly more than the other. Now on top of the forward tilt of the pelvis, now we get rotated, now we have problems. When we see the rotation of the tightness of the hips, the feet start to evert, now we start getting pressure on the medial side of the knees, that's the inside, hips start going, back start going, etc. Well, what does all this have to do with golf? This same person now is taking their dysfunctional body into the golf world, which demands flexibility and strength in the muscle groups. So what happens in the golf swing exactly? Well, for example, muscles work in pairs like I was just saying. When the biceps contract, the triceps expand and vice versa. Well, down here we have the front of the calves, the quadriceps, the hip flexors, the abdominals, and the pecs. They reciprocate with the backs of the hamstrings, the calves, hamstrings, glutes, lower back, and upper back muscles. In the golf swing, when the upper body weight begins to shift, right about here, right there, the quadriceps and the hip flexor go into contraction. The hamstrings and the glutes go into extension. So as the front lower body muscles are contracting, the front upper body muscles are expanding. The right side contracts, the left side expands. Everybody wants to know what the first move starting down is, and the first move is really the unwinding of the right hip for right-handers, moving the center of gravity and the weight back to the front foot. Now the left side muscles pick up what the right side were doing and reverses exactly that procedure. What happens now if we get a person who has tight hamstrings? If those hamstrings are tight, that person will tend to stand up. Or if the hips are too tight, they will tend to slide. If a person is rounded shouldered, forward head posture, that simply means they're too tight on the anterior or the front part of their thorax or the chest there, and as a result, they won't be able to expand and get extension here and make a true shoulder turn. So you see the golf swing is really a very athletic motion, and more bad news is handicaps have really only come down about a half a point in something like 35 years, which is really kind of unusual because people just simply, I mean, they're taking more lessons, golf technology's better, equipment's better, courses are better, yet the average person is not getting any better simply because they're not working on their bodies.